In this segment, we'll provide some options for exploring the less traveled west side of the preserve, with lots of curious sights along the way. Starting at the staging area, you can take the Clyma trail down to an historic almond orchard and then head up to the backpack camp for lunch. To return, you'll descend to Morgan Territory Road, cross, and come back up the Coyote Trail beside the headwaters of Marsh Creek. That's a 6-mile walk with about a 700-foot elevation difference from top to bottom. If you're feeling more ambitious, you can add 3 miles and 300 feet in elevation by going from the backpack camp to the top of Highland Ridge, circling back on the Raven and Fox trails. Both the Highland Ridge and Raven trails are precipitous in places, so you might want to consider bringing hiking poles. You should definitely bring a map, which you can get online or at the staging area. Coming down the Clyma trail, you'll see the almond orchard first, and then signs of a home site, a non-native Monterey cypress and some excavated areas. The trail and the orchard are named after William and Philippa Clyma. William was a miner born in Cornwall, England, in 1848. When Cornwall's mining industry declined, the couple fled to America, where William mined silver in the boomtown of Austin, Nevada. A decade later, the couple purchased 80 acres of land in Morgan Territory. The property had a house with room for their 4 children, buildings for raising chickens and milking cows, and 46 fruit trees. To make a living, they sold butter, eggs, plums, apricots, apples, almonds, and other produce down in Livermore. Anne Homan's 2001 book, The Morning Side of Mount Diablo, is a comprehensive history of the Morgan Territory area. Not just the park, but the people who've lived along Morgan Territory Road. It's not a mission-oriented book, but it's had an impact. Right after it was published, the author delivered a copy to Seth Adams, and they got talking about the Gim property, which included the orchard. Homan reportedly said to Adams, "If the Park District gets the Gim property, make sure they don't cut down the orchard. It's historic." Later, when the district was negotiating, the acquisitions chief said to Doyle,
"I think we got a deal on Gim. There's just one thing we haven't talked about. They want to cut down the almond trees for firewood. It's non-native. I figure it's okay." And he says, "No, that orchard has its own chapter in this new book. You need to go back and make sure we save the orchard too." And that was how the 135-year-old Clyma almond orchard was saved.
From the orchard, the Highland Ridge Trail will lead you up and over Epperson Ridge to the backpack camp. This is a good place to hop up to the top of Roger Epperson Ridge.
My favorite view is the Roger Epperson Ridge, and you're looking right at Mount Diablo and its peaks. It has an unobstructed view from the higher areas with hardly any houses in sight. You have these heavy woodlands, but then these open vistas of rolling grassland and amazing rock outcrops. It's just a phenomenal landscape.
If you're opting for the 6-mile hike, you can head back the way you came and turn left when you get to the junction with the Clyma Trail. If you're opting for the 9-mile hike, no need to backtrack. Just veer right off Rogers Ridge to the continuation of the Highland Ridge Trail. In about 1.5 miles, you'll have reached our high point at an elevation of some 2,300 feet. Just beyond that point and a little downhill, there's a spot where you can sit on some rocks and survey the scene at the top of Highland Ridge.
It's the whole ridge that nobody knows about, stretching from one park to another. It's visually the northern backdrop for the Livermore Valley. You're constantly changing elevation, you're constantly changing perspective, you're getting long views. The long views are not blocked by trees. There's a mosaic of habitat. Everything about it is interesting and varied, and you can get some level of perspective that you're not the center of the universe. Big open landscapes like this open your mind.
This big open landscape also attracts one of America's largest and most imposing birds, the golden eagle. Some of the eagles you might see out here are flying from the Central Valley to the coast. Others are attracted to the Diablo Range's north-south trending ridges. Nearly constant winds form standing waves of air along these ridges. Warm weather creates rising thermals, and there's plenty of prey. It all adds up to almost effortless hunting. All told, more than 60 pairs of golden eagles live year-round within 20 miles of Altamont Pass, making it the densest known population of golden eagles in the world.
One August day I came out here, and it was one of those gorgeous golden days. It wasn't all that hot. I was hiking overland from the staging area directly west to the peak of Highland Ridge across this dry golden landscape. And when I got up there, it was a complete surprise to me because there are all these little gnarled bays and oaks along the ridgeline there, and there were these little gardens of bright green, newly germinated grass under all of these trees. And it took me a minute to realize that they were there because Highland Ridge and the ridge to the south of Livermore funnel the fog from the bay through Altamont Pass. It turns out in the summer, enough fog drip happens that a lot of grass germinates. The birds and the deer and the cattle eat it over the next 3 or 4 days, and it disappears again, only to happen again after the next big fog. So you get these amazing midsummer, beautiful green grass gardens up along ridge tops that comb the fog out of the air. And then I'm going down the ridge, and there's a pond down there where I've seen a large number of eagles. The light is fading, everything is gorgeous. It's that time of day that Bob Walker called magic hour, when the shadows lengthen out and everything gains more depth. Off in the distance there's this peak, and it's like a pyramid shining bright golden in the setting sun. And I'm staring at it, just struck by how gorgeous it is when this flight of bluebirds explodes across the blue sky ahead of me with the golden in the distance. It's this ecstatic moment of serendipity where all the things come together in one moment, and it's just gorgeous.